Hello students, we are going to discuss about competitive bits in test number 1. Question number 1. A typical angiosperm anther is options 1. Bilobed tetrasporangiate, 2. Bilobed monosporangiate, 3. Bilobed bisporangiate, 4. Tetralobed monosporangiate. So it is a direct point. A typical angiosperm anther is consists two anther lobes, consists two anther lobes, and each anther lobe consists two pollen sacs, two pollen sacs, and each pollen sac consists one microsporangia. Microsporangium. So now let's see two anther lobes. That means bilobed. One is correct. Anther is bilobed. Now, how many sporangiate are present? So each anther lobe consists two pollen sac. Number of anther lobes, 2. 2 into 2. Total anther consists 4 pollen sac. 4 pollen sacs are present in each anther. And each pollen sac consists for one microsporangium. Each pollen sac consists one microsporangium. That means 4 pollen sacs consists 4 microsporangia. Microsporangia. So that means 4 microsporangia, nothing but tetrasporangiate. Tetrasporangiate. So a typical angiosperm anther is bilobe and tetrasporangiate. Correct answer is option 1. Question number 2. The innermost wall layer of anther. Options 1 is nutritive in function. 2. Helps in dehiscence of anther. 3. Is haploid and protective in function. 4. Forms microspores. So let's see. The innermost wall layer of anther is called tapetum. The innermost wall layer of anther is called as tapetum. And this tapetum is nutritive in function. It provides the nutrition for developing pollen grains. So the correct answer is option 1. And here second option helps in dehiscence of anther, that is the function of endothecium. Endothecium wall layer of anther helpful for dehiscence, breaking of anther after maturity. So microspores, nothing but pollen grains, are produced by the sporogenous tissue or microspore mother cells, MMC. Microspore mother cells produce these microspores. So the second question correct answer is innermost wall layer of anther helps in nutrition or nutritive in function. Option 1 is correct. Question number 3. The process of formation of microspores from a pollen mother cell is called. Options 1. Megasporogenesis, 2. Microsporogenesis, 3. Megagametogenesis, 4. Microgametogenesis. So let's see the definitions. Megasporogenesis, the process of formation of megaspores from megaspore mother cell is called as megasporogenesis. So during this megasporogenesis, embryo sac is developed in the ovule. And microsporogenesis, the process of formation of microspores from pollen mother cell or microspore mother cell is called microsporogenesis. So the correct answer is option 2. Question number 4. The pollen grain represent options: 1. Male gamete, 2. Male gametophyte, 3. Microsporophyll, 4. Microsporangium. So male gametes, that is the male nuclei in pollen grain represent the male gametes. Male gametophyte. The pollen grain carry the male nuclei, hence the male pollen grains are called as male gametophyte. So here microsporangium, it is a present in pollen sac in anther. In that microsporangium, pollen grains are produces. Here the question is the pollen grain represent. So already we knew that during germination, pollen grain produces the pollen tube, produces the pollen tube, and this pollen grain consists two types of cells, that is a vegetative cell and generative cell. So this generative cell undergo mitosis to form two male nuclei. These two male nuclei are called as male gametes. Male gametes. And these male gametes are carried by the pollen grain. Hence, the pollen grain is also considered as male gametophyte. So the correct answer is option 2. Question number 5. The most resistant organic material known which makes up the outermost layer of pollen wall is options: 1. Pectin, 2. Cellulose, 3. Sporopollenin, 4. Lignin. So the pollen grain surrounded by, we are all very well known that the pollen grain is surrounded by outer axine and inner intine. So now the pectin and cellulose both are present in cellulopectin, present in the inner wall of pollen grain, that is intine. So intine is composed with pectin and cellulose. So that's why the first two options are not considered as the answer. So lignin is not present in the wall of pollen grain. So now the axine, that means outer wall of the pollen grain, is called as axine, and it is made up of a substance called as a that means sporopollenin. So that is this sporopollenin, this chemical substance is resistant. It has a resistant or resistance against resistance against acids, bases, or maybe alkalis, temperature, and also no other biochemical compound, that is enzymes, degrade this sporopollenin. So the most resistant organic material known which makes up the outermost layer of pollen wall. So the outermost layer of pollen wall is axine, and it is made up of sporopollenin. Option 3 is correct. Question number 6. Choose the correct option with respect to the function of the germ pore. Options: 1. It allows growth of pollen tube. 2. It allows water absorption in seed. 3. It helps dehiscence of pollen grain. 4. More than one option is correct. So here we need to find out the correct option with respect to the function of germ pore. So first of all, we need to know what is that germ pore. So it is a pollen grain, and it is surrounded by outer wall. It is surrounded by it is outer wall, and it is a discontinuous thick layer. So in some areas it is discontinued. It is not a continuous layer. This region, it is a discontinued region. So these regions are called as germ pores. Germ pore. So this outer wall layer is called as axine, and it is thick and discontinuous. Thick and discontinuous. The discontinuous, where this sporopollenin, that means axine is thick and it is made up of a organic material called as the sporopollenin. Sporopollenin. So it is very hard and resistant, but in some areas this sporopollenin is absent. That regions are called as the germ pore. Now the question is, with respect to the function of this germ pore, what is the correct one? So this inner wall, it is called as intine. Intine. This intine, during pollen germination, this intine develops as the intine is develops as a pollen tube. It develops as pollen tube to carry that germ nuclei or maybe male nuclei towards the egg cell. So the correct option with respect to the function of germ pore is germ pore allows the growth of pollen tube. So that pollen tube is formed by extension of this intine. That pollen tube will comes out through only germ pore. So that option 1 is correct. Question number 1. The thin and continuous wall layer of pollen is options: 1. Axine, 2. Intine, 3. Germ pore, 4. Endothecium. So let's see. Pollen grain covered with a outer axine and inner intine. Axine is thick wall layer made up of sporopollenin. It is discontinuous in some regions where sporopollenin is absent. That regions are called as germ pores. Where it is absent, that region is called as germ pore. Now intine. It is thin continuous wall layer made up of cellulopectin. So based on this information, the thin and continuous wall layer of pollen is intine. That is option 2. Question number 8. The two cell stage of mature pollen grain consists of options 1. Vegetative cell, generative cell, 2. Vegetative cell, 1 male gamete, 3. 2 male gametes, 4. Generative cell, 1 male gamete. So let's see. Already we discussed several times. So the pollen grain, so it is covered with a two layers, pollen grain, axine and intine. Now inside the pollen grain consists two types of cells. That is a large tube nucleus or maybe vegetative nucleus. Inside that irregular a small nucleus is present, that is called as the generative nucleus. So it is axine, and the inner wall layer it is called as intine, and the large nuclei it is called as the tube nucleus or maybe vegetative nucleus. Inside this vegetative, a small nucleus will float in that cell, that is called as the generative cell, and it consists nucleus, generative nucleus. Generative cell. So these are the two cells are present in the pollen grain. So now in that two cells, one cell it is a vegetative cell and another cell is the generative cell. And during germination, the germ nucleus of the generative cell undergo mitosis division to form two male nuclei. In such condition, the pollen grain consists one vegetative cell and two male nuclei, that is equal to 3 cell stage. So nearly 60% of angiosperm, in 60% of angiosperms, pollen grains are shed 2 cell stage. 2 cell stage. And in remaining 40% of angiosperms, the pollen grains are shed in 3 cell stage. 3-celled stage. So hence the correct answer. The 2 cell stage of mature pollen grain consists vegetative cell and generative cell. So option 1 is correct. Question number 9. In 40% angiosperms, the pollen grains are shed at options 1. 4-cell stage, 2. 3-cell stage, 3. 2-cell stage, 4. 5-cell stage. So in these options, we cannot observe the 4-cell stage as well as 5-cell stage in the pollen grains. So the pollen grains either shed in 3-cell stage or maybe 2-cell stage. So we are already knew that 60% of flowering plants or 60% in 60% of angiosperms, angio, angiosperms, the pollen grains are shed at The pollen grains are shed at two cell stage. Two cell stage. So that means the remaining 40%. So 60% angiosperms shed at two cell stage. That means the remaining percent is 40%. This 40% of in 40% angiosperms, the pollen grains are shed at three cell stage. So this question is direct, and 40% of 60% of angiosperms shed at pollen grains are shed at two cell stage. It is a direct NCRT textbook point. It is direct NCRT textbook point. So based on this point, we need to know about the 40%, 60% angiosperms, pollen grains shed at two cell stage, and remaining percent of angiosperms, the pollen grains are shed at three cell stage. So the correct answer is 40% angiosperms. The pollen grains are shed at three cell stage. The correct answer is option 2. Question number 10. Pollen allergy is caused by pollens of options 1. Rose, 2. Clematis, 3. Parthenium, 4. Sunflower. So it is also a direct question from textbook. So the pollen allergy, it is caused by a pollen grains of Parthenium. So it is commonly called as carrot grass. Carrot grass. It is entered into the India along with imported wheat. So the correct answer, the pollen energy is caused by the pollen grains of Parthenium or maybe carrot grass. Correct answer is option 3. Question number 11. The pollen viability period of rice and pea respectively is options 1. 30 minutes and several months, 2. Several months and 30 minutes, 3. Few days and few months, 4. Few days in both the cases. So let's see that pollen viability, that means the certain period the pollen grain can survive. So in rice, the pollen viability is 30 minutes. That is correct. So in rice, the pollen viability is 30 minutes. Now, and Leguminosae rosaceae families, the pollen viability is several months. So here in question it is given as a P, it will comes under Leguminosae family. That means the pollen viability in Leguminosae family is nearly several months. So that's why the pollen viability period of rice and pea, so that is 30 minutes and several months. So option 1 is correct. Question number 12. Integumented megasporangium is options 1. Ovule, 2. Pollen sac, 3. Pollen grain, 4. Embryo sac. So this is a direct definition. If you see the notebook, in the first point itself it is given as a definition. Ovule or megasporangium is a integumented megasporangium is called as ovule. Megasporangium is nothing but ovule. So integumented megasporangium is ovule. Option 1 is correct. Question number 13. The nutritive tissue present in the ovule is called options 1. Nucellus, 2. Funicle, 3. Embryo, 4. Integuments. So let's see the options. 1, we know that nucellus, it is a tissue enclosed in the ovule. enclosed in the ovule. And second option, that is funicle, that is called as stalk of ovule. And it's here fourth option, that is integuments, it is covering over the ovule. So among this, which one acts as a nutritive tissue? That is option 1, nucellus is the nutritive tissue present in the ovule. Option 1 is correct. Question number 14, the number of embryo sac in an ovule is generally, so this is a direct answer. So ovule consists only one embryo sac. So option 1 is correct. Question number 15, the ploidy level of nucellus and female gametophyte respectively is options 1, N, N, haploid, haploid. Option 2, haploid, 2N, diploid. 3, diploid, 2N, haploid, N. 4, 2N, 2N, diploid and diploid. So the question is ploidy level of nucellus and female gametophyte. That means what is the ploidy of nucellus and what is the ploidy of female gametophyte. So let's see that nucellus is a vegetative part. So nucellus parenchymatous tissue enclosed in the ovule. So the nucellus is defined as tissue enclosed in ovule. Tissue or parenchymatous tissue enclosed in ovule is called as nucellus. So this ovule is a vegetative part. It is a vegetative and it is in diploid condition, that is 2N, diploid. Nucellus cells are in diploid condition. Diploid condition. Now what about this female gametophyte? Female gametophyte. So already we knew that how this female gametophyte is formed. Female gametophyte is also called as embryo sac. Embryo sac. So from megaspore mother cells, megaspore mother cell, megaspore mother cell undergo meiosis division to form four megaspores. So megaspore mother cell is diploid condition 2N. It undergo meiosis, results the haploid condition 1N. So among these four, three degenerate, only one develops into embryo sac. So that means here megaspores are haploid. That means in this megaspore develops into embryo sac. That means embryo sac or female gametophyte is haploid condition. So the ploidy of nucellus and female gametophyte respectively. Nucellus is diploid condition 2N and female gametophyte is N. So correct answer is option 3. Question number 16. The number of nuclei in a mature embryo sac are option 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 4. So now let's draw the embryo sac structure. So this is a embryo sac and the number of cells present in this embryo sac, number of types of cells. So we can find nearly four types of cells. Antipodal cells at chalajal region. This is type 1. Antipodal cells. Antipodal cells. And egg cell. This is another type. Egg cell. Egg cell. And two or that is synergous. Synergous. And at center, the largest cell at the center, that is called as central cell with the two polar nuclei. It is the central cell. So each antipodal cell having one nuclei, egg cell having one nucleus, and synergous, each synerg having one nuclei. So total three antipodals having three nuclei. Egg cell having one nuclei. Synergies two are present, that's why two nuclei. So that means 2 plus 1, 3 plus 3, total 6, and central cell having two nuclei. So that's why the total of 8 nuclei are present. And types of cells are 4: antipodal, central cell, egg, and synergies. Type Types of cells in embryo sac. Types of cells are 4 types. Number of cells in embryo sac. Number: antipodals 3, central cell 1, egg cell 1, synergies 2. So 3 plus 1, 4 plus 3, 7. So it consists 7 cells, and these 7 divided into 4 types. So types of cells in embryo sac 4, number of cells in embryo sac 7, number of nuclei in embryo sac 8. So now the answer is option 1. Question number 17. The largest cell of the mature embryo sac is option 1 antipodals, 2 synergies, 3 central cell, 4 egg cell. Let's see the embryo sac diagram. Embryo sac, 3 cells are present at chalajal region, that is antipodal cells, antipodal cells, and it micropyle region, it consists a egg cell as well as synergies. So all these antipodal, synergies, and egg cell all are haploid in condition. So it is a egg cell, and these two are the synergies or helper cells. And at center it has a cell in the embryo sac. It has a cell, and this is by seeing that we can observe that this central cell consists two polar nuclei, and this is the central cell. And the question is, the largest cell in the matured embryo sac is central cell is the largest cell among other cells. So the correct answer is option 3, central cell. Question number 18. The structures which guide the pollen tube into the synerg is options: 1 antipodals, 2 germ pore, 3 aril, 4 filiform apparatus. So let's see this option 2, that is germ pore. See, in this option it is a part of pollen grain. It is a part of pollen grain. Through this pollen germ pore, this pollen tube is originated. That means intine comes out through this germ pore as a pollen tube. So that's why it is not our answer. And aerial, that means it is a integument. Aerial, it is nothing but it is some extra feature in the integument. Integument. So it is also a not considered for our answer. Now let's come to the observe the structure of this embryo sac. So embryo sac, and this embryo sac towards a chalagial region, it has a three haploid cells called as antipodals. So these three cells are antipodals present towards the chalagial, antipodals present towards the chalagial end. And in micropyle end, it consists one egg cell and two helper cells or maybe synergies. So this is the egg cell, egg cell, and these two are the synergies. Synergies. Now at the center we have one more part, that is a large cell is present at the center. This is central cell and it consists two nuclei, that is polar nuclei. So this is a central cell. Central cell. So now the question is the structure which guide the pollen tube into the synergy. So the pollen tube enters through stigma and enters style and comes to the towards the micropyle region. So micropyle region consists egg. So that's why pollen tube enters towards this micropyle region. So this is the region the pollen tube enters. So what are present at this region? This is a pollen tube. Pollen tube enters towards this. And at this a surface of this synergies, we can observe a finger-like structures. They are called as filiform apparatus. Filiform apparatus. So these filiform apparatus guide this pollen tube to enter into the embryo sac. So the correct answer is filiform apparatus, option 4. Question number 19, geitonogamy is. So we are already know that self-pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma, the same flower in the same plant, is called as a self-pollination. So this self-pollination is of two types. It is of two types. So that is one is called as autogamy, autogamy, and another one our question, that is geitonogamy, geitonogamy. So autogamy, that means the transferring of, suppose it is a stem, it has a flower, and transferring the pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower is called autogamy. And geitonogamy, that means this plant is same in that the pollen grains from anther of this flower, it also consists the stigma. Bisexual flower only, or maybe bisexual plant. I will say the difference between bisexual flower as well as bisexual plant. So transferring the pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant is called as geitonogamy. So both are comes under self-pollination. Hence, the geitonogamy is genetically autogamous. That is option 1 is correct. Question number 20. Which of the following plant provides a safe place to insect for laying eggs? Option 1 sage plant, 2 Amorphophallus, 3 Ophrys, 4 mango. So among these Amorphophallus is the correct answer. It is a produce a tallest flower. Amorphophallus, it produces the tallest flower, that is around 6 feet in height. That is almost, it produces the flower, it is 6 feet in height. So this Amorphophallus provides the safe place to laying eggs. And whereas Ophrys is the good example for the mutualism or maybe symbiosis. So Ophrys, it has a symbiosis with wasp insects, and this Ophrys, the flower petals of these Ophrys flowers or appears like a female wasp, female insect. So that's why the male insects suspect that this petal is a female and it will come towards this flower for mating with that female, coloration. So when it visits that flower, the pollen grains are attached to that insects. So the Ophrys shows the pseudo copulation. That means it is also called as sexual deceit. We can observe in Ophrys. So this concept we can discuss under 13th chapter. It will come, the concept will come under 13th chapter. So the correct answer is option 2, Amorphophallus. This is the tallest flower. It is about 6 feet height. It provides the safe place to lay the eggs. Question number 21. Examples of water pollinated flowers. Options 1 Zostera, lotus, water lily. 2 lotus, Vallisneria, hydrilla. 3 Potamogeton, Vallisneria, lotus. 4 Vallisneria, hydrilla, Zostera. These are the options. In these options, if you are observe the option 1 Zostera, already we are studied in short answers. Zostera and lotus, in these flowers are present on the surface of water, lotus flowers. So that's why in this, even though the lotus plant is present in water, flowers are present on surface, and the pollination occurs either by insect or maybe wind. So that's why first and second options lotus is present, and third option also lotus is present. So that's why in these three options, water pollinated flowers are present, only two are water pollinated. Remaining lotus is not a water pollinating flower. It is present in water. Plant is present in water, but pollination does not take place by water. So here the truly water pollinated flowers are present in Vallisneria, hydrilla, Zostera. So the correct option is 4. Question number 22. Which of the following is not a characteristic feature of insect pollinated flowers? Options 1 fragrance, 2 nectars or nectaries, 3 foul odor, 4 mucilaginous covering on pollen grains. So among these, the mucilaginous covering on pollen grains, this character we are observed in in hydrophytes. Hydrophytes. That means the plants which are present in the water. So the pollination occurs through water. In such flowers, the pollen grains are coated with mucus to prevent from the wetting. So in such hydrophytes, this mucilaginous cover helpful to the pollen grains to from prevent from wetting. So all three, fragrance, nectaries and foul odor. Odor is nothing but smell. These three are the characters of insect pollinated flowers. But mucilaginous covering on pollen grains is the characteristic feature of water pollinating flowers. So the correct answer is option 4. Question number 23. Pollen robbers. Options: consume pollen or nectar. 2. Are effective in bringing about pollination. 3. Do not visit flowers for pollen. 4. Take pollen from other insects. So here the pollination is occurred by insects. Generally insects are visits for getting nectar, for getting nectar. So while collecting this nectar, some of the pollen grains are attaches to their body and they are transferred to the other plant. So that is the exact function of the insects in the pollination. But here in these pollen robbers, these insects, they collect the nectar, they consume the nectar as well as they consume pollen also. They cannot involve in the transfer of these pollen grains to the other plants. Such insects we will call as pollen robbers. So correct answer is option 1. Pollen robbers or consume pollen grains as well as nectar. So option 1 is correct. Question number 24. Dioecious condition prevents options: autogamy. 2. Geitonogamy. 3. Xenogamy. 4. Both option 1 and option 2. So let's see that what does it mean dioecious. Dioecious is also called, it is equivalent to the unisexuality. Unisexual condition, it is dioecious. So this unisexuality prevent. What does it mean unisexual? That means flowers consists flowers consists either either male or female reproductive organs. Reproductive organs, that will either male. Suppose if flower consists that male reproductive androecium only, such flowers are called as staminate flowers. staminate flowers. If flowers consists only female reproductive buds, such flowers are called as pistillate flowers. Pistillate flowers, that means which consists only female reproductive part. Male reproductive part, that is staminate flowers. So now these unisexual flowers prevent which one? So here the first option, that is autogamy. Autogamy. And another one is geitonogamy. Geitonogamy. So both these two are considered as self pollination. Self pollination. And the third option here, it is xenogamy. So xenogamy is nothing but cross pollination. So xenogamy is nothing but, that means also the commonly called as cross pollination. This information we know clearly in our notebooks. So now the question is, unisexuality prevents, which one it prevents? So what is meant by autogamy? The transfer of pollen grains from, suppose if it is a flower, we are saying that it is a flower, bisexual flower. If it is a bisexual flower, so in this bisexual flower, it consists, it is a anther, and it consists a stigma. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of this flower is transferred to the stigma of the same flower. It is autogamy. So geitonogamy means the same plant, it has another flower here. So in this, the pollen grains of this anther transferred to the stigma of the another flower of the same plant is called as geitonogamy. But xenogamy, it occurs in dioecious plant. So that means cross pollination, that is transferring the pollen grains from anther of one flower to stigma of another flower, of the another plant. So this plant is different and this plant is, so both are belongs to same species but two different plants. Then it is called as the cross pollination. So now this dioecious condition prevents. So here dioecious means unisexuality. Here stamens only present. That means it is staminate flower. And here it consists only stigma. That's why it is a pistillate flower. The pollination occurs between two flowers of the different plants. Two different, that means two plants. So then it is called as cross pollination. So in dioecious plants, there is no question of self pollination. In dioecious condition, that means a staminate flower or maybe in pistillate flower, there is no question of self pollination. It favors only cross pollination, and this unisexuality prevents self pollination. That self pollination is of two types, autogamy and geitonogamy. So both are prevented. So that's why the correct option is 4. Both autogamy and geitonogamy prevented in dioecious condition. Question number 25. The role of triple fusion in angiosperms is to produce options: 1. Cotyledons, 2. PEN, 3. Endocarp, 4. Seed. So the correct answer for this triple fusion, fusion of male nuclei and secondary nucleus, results the formation of PEN, primary endosperm nucleus. So the triple fusion, the role of triple fusion in angiosperm is need to produce primary primary endosperm endosperm nucleus. It is the role of triple fusion in angiosperm to produce PEN. So the correct answer is 2. Question number 26. Production of seed without fertilization is called. Options: 1. Parthenocarpy, 2. Parthenogenesis, 3. Apomixis, 4. Apogamy. So let's see the definitions of these terms. So the first definition is parthenocarpy. So the parthenocarpy, production of fruit without fertilization is called parthenocarpy. Production of fruit without fertilization is parthenocarpy. And a second option, that is parthenogenesis. So this parthenogenesis occurs in animals. We'll consider in animals. So what does it mean? Parthenogenesis, that is the formation of an individual, or production of an individual without fertilization is called parthenogenesis. And the third one is apomixis. So it is defined as a production of seeds without fertilization is apomixis. And the fourth one, the development of apogamy, it is defined as the development of an embryo without occurrence of the fertilization is called as apogamy. So among this information, the production of seeds without fertilization is called as apogamy. Sorry, apomixis. The production of seeds without fertilization is called apomixis. So option 3 is correct answer. So production of fruit without fertilization, parthenocarpy. In animals, the production of individuals without fertilization, parthenogenesis. For this example is drones in honeybees. So example for parthenogenesis, drone drones of honeybees. And production of seeds without fertilization, apomixis. And production of embryo or development of embryo without fertilization is apogamy. So correct answer is 3. Question number 27. The central cell after triple fusion becomes. The central cell after triple fusion becomes. So options: 1. PEC, 2. PEN, 3. Endosperm, 4. Embryo. So now let's know first about triple fusion. Triple fusion. So triple fusion, that is a fusion of 3 nuclei. So triple fusion it is occurred the fusion of one male nucleus fuses with the secondary nucleus. And we are very well known that this secondary nucleus is formed by fusion of two polar nuclei, two polar nuclei in central cell, central cell. So here two polar nuclei and one male nucleus. So one plus two polar nuclei, one polar nuclei plus one polar nuclei. Total three nuclei are fused together. That's why it is called as triple fusion. So here each nucleus is 1n condition, haploid condition. That's why triple fusion, that means it results the triploid condition. 3n results the 3n. So first it forms PEC, primary endospermic cell, and then converts into primary endosperm nucleus. So the correct answer is option 1, PEC. Question number 28. The diploid and triploid product of double fertilization respectively are. So first of all, we need to know about this double fertilization. What is meant by this double fertilization? That is syngamy plus triple fusion. Syngamy plus triple fusion together called as double fertilization. So syngamy means the syngamy, we can explain that syngamy. So that is fusion of gametes. Fusion of gametes is called as syngamy. So that means fusion of male and female gametes are called as syngamy. So that results that fusion results zygote. Results zygote. So the diploid and triploid product of double fertilization. Zygote is always in diploid condition. It is formed by the fusion of male and female gamete. So male gamete is haploid and female gamete is also haploid. 1n plus 1n, it becomes 2n. So diploid is zygote. Now, and triple fusion. So that is explain that triple fusion, it is nothing but fusion of triple fusion, that is fusion of three nuclei. So that means one male nuclei, one male nucleus plus secondary nucleus, secondary nucleus. We are all very well known that this secondary nucleus is formed by fusion of central nuclei, central nuclei, that is two polar nuclei are present in the central cell. So that means the fusion of a nuclei of central cell, fusion of nuclei of central cell. So secondary nucleus is the result of fusion of nuclei of central cell. So here nuclei, central cell consists two nuclei plus one male nucleus, total three nuclei are fused together. That's why it is a triple fusion. So three nuclei, male nucleus is haploid 1n condition and each polar nuclei is 1n condition. So that means two polar nuclei 2n plus one male nucleus 1n, that results the triple fusion results the 3n condition, triploid condition. So the triploid condition is forms the endospermic nucleus. So the correct answer for this question is the diploid and triploid product of double fertilization is zygote and primary endosperm nucleus. So option 1 is correct. Question number 29. Double endosperm is found in options 1 wheat, 2 rice, 3 pea, 4 coconut. So double endosperm, if you revise your notes, you can find there are different types of endosperms. That is one nuclear endosperm, nuclear endosperm, and second one is cellular endosperm, and third one is halobial endosperm, three types. So now here double endosperm, we can found that in this nuclear endosperm it consists of several nuclei. That means a nuclear division will takes place without cytokinesis. Such endosperm we will call as the nuclear endosperm. So this nuclear endosperm we can find in the form of water that we can found in the coconut. So coconut water is a nuclear endosperm, coconut water. And when it undergoes cytokinesis, gradually it converts into the cellular endosperm, that is coconut kernel, the white coating on that shell of the coconut kernel is the cellular. So nuclear endosperm in coconut is the coconut water. Coconut water is nuclear endosperm and coconut kernel is the cellular endosperm. That means two types double endosperm we can observe in coconut. So correct option is 4. Question number 30. Exalbuminous seeds are of options 1 wheat, pea, groundnut, 2 castor, pea, groundnut, 3 pea, groundnut, beans, 4 wheat, castor, rice. So let's know that what is meant by this X-albuminous seeds first. So X-albuminous seeds, X-albuminous seeds, X-albuminous seeds is also called as, it is also otherwise called as non-endospermic, non-endospermic seeds. So in some seeds, endosperm is utilized. In some seeds, in some seeds, endosperm endosperm utilized before embryo development, before embryo development. Such seeds are called as the non-endospermic seeds. In some seeds, the endosperm is retained till the embryo development. Such seeds are called as the endospermic seeds. So now the endospermic seeds are examples for this endospermic seeds or albuminous seeds. Albuminous seeds example, albuminous seeds, that is wheat, castor, or the albuminous seeds or maybe endospermic seeds. Whereas exalbuminous seeds are exalbuminous seeds are pea, groundnut, rice, beans, etc. or the exalbuminous or maybe non-endospermic seeds. So as per this information, in first option, this wheat is albuminous, not exalbuminous. It is albuminous or endospermic. And in second option, this castor is albuminous. Albuminous. And in fourth option, wheat, castor, these two are albuminous, but rice is exalbuminous. In option 3, pea, groundnut, and beans all are exalbuminous. So the correct option is 3. So dear students, here it is the overall key of this test number 1. So in this key I mentioned question numbers clearly 31 to 60, but while explanation I use the question number 1, 2, 3, 4 like that to 30. So please beware of that. Thank you students. However, you are completed this test number 1. If you are written well or not, whatever may be, but be thorough at least for the next examination, that is on 21st of this month.